Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to Dr. Monkey, where we laugh together and cry together, but hopefully take something away to treat each other a little better. Here's some interesting stories. One about an OP who let a pregnant woman and her kid into OP's house to stay the night. Oh, and OP kicked them out immediately after what happened. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Story 1. Okay. So I was chilling in my living room around 3 a.m. playing some video games. My parents are out of town visiting some friends and I decided to stay home. House to myself and all. So here I am, in nothing but underwear, when there's a knock on the door. What the heck, I think to myself. So I scramble to get some clothes on and I answer the door. It was a family acquaintance with her already whiny little brat. She's also visibly pregnant. And we'll get into why that part is important later. Me, hey, what's going on? Her, my car broke down and the tow company can't come get my car until tomorrow. Think me and Brat can crash here tonight? Me, sure, you guys can sleep in the living room. I let them in. Me, want anything to eat or drink? Her, coffee if it's not any trouble. Me, sure, no problem. So I go to make some coffee when I see EK picking up my controller. Me, hey little guy, please put that down. Her, oh, can't he play a game? Me, no, I'm in the middle of something, plus he wouldn't know how to play the type of game. Her, but he really wants to, don't you, EK? EK, I want to play. Me, no, you can't play. EK, I want to play, I want to play, I want to play! Ah! Throws the freaking controller at the TV, shattering the screen. Me, what the heck? I rush over to the TV. Her, hey, don't you swear at my child. Me, you just freaking let him destroy my TV like this? Her, you're the one who didn't let him play the video game. Me, I said no, and you have to teach your brat that he isn't owed jack crap. Her, how dare you? Just wait until I tell your mother about how you treated him. You'll make a terrible mom. Me, I'm not having kids, but if I did, I wouldn't let them be spoiled EKs like Brat. Her, you're being the brat right now. Just get a new TV and quit whining. Me, yeah, I'll go get a new TV with the money you pay me from the broken TV. Her, what? But you're the one who instigated EK. Me, you know what? Just get the heck out of my house. You and your brat are no longer welcome in my house. Her, what the heck is wrong with you? I'm pregnant and have a toddler and have nowhere to go. You can't just kick a stranded pregnant mother and her toddler out at 3 a.m. in the cold. Me, oh yes I can, you insufferable idiot. Get the heck out of my house before I call the police. Her, picking up her brat and heading towards the door. Just wait until I tell your mother about this. Me, yeah, I'll gladly tell her about what EK did to the TV and that you refused to pay for it. Her, you'll regret this. She leaves. The next morning, I called my parents and explained what happened. They were very understanding because I was never raised to be a spoiled little brat, and Mommy idiot got an earful from my mom that if she didn't pay back, we would take her to small claims. She tried to play the, oh, woe is me, single pregnant mother, blah, blah, blah crap, but it didn't work, and she forked over the $500 for a new TV, and we cut contact with her. Edit, in case anyone else was wondering, the reason Breeder and her crapstain were out at 3 a.m. was because EK demanded McDonald's and refused to go to bed unless he got it. Why do people think you can't kick them off property if you are currently in charge of? Law states that you do not have to let people on your property. Also, she should have put her toddler to sleep like 6 hours before this scenario. He wouldn't be asking for McDonald's if he was asleep now, would he? It is your fault, you stupid idiot. Story 2. So I was 39 plus 6 weeks pregnant when I had to go to the hospital for reduced movements of my baby. I had to be induced the following day, but was left in slow labor for 3 days in hospital until they could break my water due to labor and delivery ward being too busy. All the wards in the city were the same, so a transfer wasn't possible. This in and itself was incredibly stressful. I eventually had my waters broken and started off with gas and air. Lasted nearly an hour before I asked for an epidural. Ladies who do it natural, kudos. You are strong AF. But I don't cope with pain especially well. So the epidural, for the most part, I felt nothing and slept through labor most of the day. There were instances where the tube moved and I felt pain in my left side. Eventually, and at 9.5 centimeters, I was rushed for an emergency C-section because the little one's heart rate kept dropping. Fast forward to 2 days later. Me and baby are still in the hospital on antibiotics while we recover. Had a temp during labor, so they wanted to make sure it wasn't an illness. And my sister that I still talk to calls me angrily. Yes, angry sister. Why didn't you tell Mom that you were in labor? You could have died for all we knew. She's heartbroken that she wasn't there to see her first biological grandchild be born. Me, what are you talking about? Mom hasn't spoken to me in over a year. I tried when I was pregnant to talk with her, and she wasn't having it. So why should I have told her? Yes, because she's your mom. Me, she wouldn't have been able to come anyway. COVID restrictions mean only my partner was allowed. We can't even have any visitors apart from the birthing partner. Have you really just called me whilst I sat in the hospital to go at me? Blame Mom for not sorting this out sooner. Yes. Well, she didn't want to talk whilst you were pregnant because she didn't want to stress you out. Me. I roll. So what? She wanted to wait till I had a newborn? I don't think so. Too little, too late. How did they find out anyway? Yes. Brother, who I still talk to, told Dad, who told Mom. Dad told me you were screaming for Mom whilst you were in labor. Me. I didn't scream once. I only cried when they told me I was having a C-section. No bother. No way brother said that to Dad. He's not that dramatic of a liar. Yes. Well, that's what Dad said. We then moved on to lighter topics and she ended the call. I only still talk to her because even though she sticks up for my parents, she now respects my boundary that we don't have to talk about them or send them pictures of the baby, although I have yet to send her any just in case. I guess I really don't trust her. I called my brother afterwards and asked him what was said and told him what I heard. He got very cross and said, "You know, I never said that." He was picking me up from work and going on at me over something stupid, so I told him you had the baby to show off that I knew what was happening with you. I know I shouldn't have done it, but I lost my temper with him, and I'm sorry. But I never said you were screaming for Mom. I said it would have been nice for her to have her mom there when she had her first baby. Me. To be honest, bro, she would have just stressed me out. You know what she's like. Brother. Yeah, I know. Well, he then told me he thought you might have had her because him and Mom had really bad stomach cramps the day you were in labor. Said it makes sense now that it was sympathy pains. Me. Kiss right off. He never did. Do they know I barely felt anything having an epidural? Swear, they like to make things about themselves. I totally believe him. We have always had the sort of relationship where we are honest no matter what, and talk about it rather than fall out. Opposite of what my family do, which is why we are so close. We realized my dad was trying to rile my mom up to start more drama. After a while of him simmering on it, chooses not to contact them. He says if my dad contacts him, he will address the lies my dad told, and tell him to do one, but so far my dad has been smart enough to stay away. My sister has come to visit my baby and has tried convincing me that I'm a horrible person for keeping my baby away from them, but I stand by the no contact. Also, the boundaries are in place with her. I won't be talked down for my choices regarding my baby. They can't treat me with respect or even nicely, then I won't allow their toxic selves around my sweet and beautiful baby. I will protect her from that sort of stuff for as long as possible. So there you have it. My parents felt me give birth when I was in labor. Yes, they are crazy. Please read previous story to see just how much. If you do choose to send a picture of LO, send them all a different photo. Then if your parents get a hold of it and post it anywhere, You know who the culprit is. Don't change too much about them. Have an item in the background slightly move or add a colored dot hidden in the corner that's 1 pixel big for each person. Story 3. Last month I got COVID and had double pneumonia that was discovered pretty late by the doctors, but thankfully didn't manifest into anything serious. A few weeks after I recovered, I started feeling pressure on my chest and had a slight fever, so I went to get tested. The test came back negative, and I was sent to the doctors to get checked up. As I was waiting in line, the EP came in the waiting room with her kid and asked who was last in line, so she would know who she was coming in after. I raised my hand and confirmed with her that she goes in after me. She reiterated that a couple of times as new people were coming in the waiting room. When it was finally my turn, the EP took her daughter by the hand saying, "Come on, sweetie, we're next," and tried to get in front of me. Me. Excuse me, miss, but I believe I'm supposed to be next. EP. Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. I totally forgot you were there. Me. Sure, no problem. It happens. As I was in the doctor's office, the doctor was on call with an elderly couple that had COVID symptoms and were in pretty bad shape. I was waiting there until she finished the call, but the EP kept knocking on the door and opening to check what was taking so long. The doctor got held up with the couple, and by the time she got finished with me, it really did take a while. When I got out, the EP started yelling at me. EP, what the heck is taking so long? Me, excuse me? EP, I've been waiting here for over a half an hour with my baby. This is absurd. You were in there taking way too much time for no reason, while my baby had to wait outside sick. At this point, I was starting to get riled up with this witch screaming in my face, so I raised my voice at her. Me, how is that my fault? I have no control in how long this was going to last. I wasn't in there having coffee. I'm sick too, and I need to get treated. If you have any complaints, take it up with the doctor. EP, ugh, you're just so unreal. You have no empathy. Like, what the heck? I'm the one without empathy? As a bonus, some old broad that was apparently also tired of waiting told me if I'm sick to go to the hospital. I turned around and told her that I don't even know what she's doing here since she's already got one foot in the grave. Might as well jump in. I also cursed her off as I was leaving, which I'm not particularly proud of, but man did that interaction tick me off. These kinds of people would literally crawl over your corpse to avoid any slight inconvenience. Probably her first kid. Still, no excuse. Just because your baby has the sniffles doesn't mean it's an emergency. If it was an emergency, you'd go to the ER because there's obvious pain. Broken bones, bleeding, not breathing, not holding down food, etc. If it's not, wait your turn. Also, it was a pandemic. Doctors were busy. Story 4. This happened a few years ago on a transatlantic flight, 7 hours or so. I had a window seat and EM sat down next to me with her son, maybe 5. She seemed nice enough, and the kid was pretty well ensconced in a box of animal crackers. Man, I totally should have bought some animal crackers before boarding. Anyway, after she'd settled her thing, she said to me he'd really like to look out the window. Would you mind switching? She was more or less polite, but I could sense the undercurrent of entitlement, and I was just not in the mood for it. Being polite but firm myself, I responded, I prefer to stay in my seat. Also, it's an overnight flight. I gestured outside. It's dark out. She shifted from politely waiting for me to do her bidding and escalated to Karen glare. Just switch with him. He wants to look outside. So you want me to sit between you? What? No. He'll have to take the window while you take the aisle. Her expression added, obviously, geez, how clueless can you be? I stared at her, wondering what the heck was wrong with her. Ian stared back, clearly wondering what the heck was wrong with me. And you might also be wondering what the heck was wrong with me. Why didn't I just switch, right? Well, you see, what wasn't obvious to you was plainly obvious to Ian, was that my arm was in a sling. If I moved to the aisle seat per her demands, that arm would be in the aisle. fully available for bodies and beverage carts to bump it through the long flight. Just sitting next to someone was a calculated risk. But since it wasn't like I could afford to book an empty seat just to baby my lemon of a shoulder, it was the lesser of two evils. One seatmate versus an entire flight's worth of traffic. When it became clear that Ian wasn't going to make the connection without some guidance, I pointed empathetically at my sling. I messed my shoulder up a few days ago, and it really hurts. I don't want people bumping into it. The Karen glare intensifies. People aren't going to bump it. If you're not leaning out of your seat into the aisle, please just let him look out the window. She did say please, but she was basically speaking in the Karen voice by this point. If she were saying, please go get your manager so I can have you fired. I'd basically had enough at that point, so I just took a muscle relaxer, put on my headphones, and knocked out for the flight. Because F her. When we landed in London, the kid was out cold, and Ian looked like she was on the verge of hallucinating from the lack of sleep, though she still mustered enough energy to shoot me the tired Karen glare. I think she legitimately spent the entire flight fuming that I wouldn't let her now sleeping son look out the window at the darkness. I seriously considered telling her I'd done her a favor. After all, if he'd spent that long looking into the void would have eventually begun looking into him. That may have been the muscle relaxers talking. So many people are genuinely shocked when people won't immediately do whatever they want them to do for their kids. I get doing a nice thing for a child, but people don't have to automatically give someone's child everything they desire simply because the parents ask. It's ridiculous. Well, guys, that's all for today. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing. If you missed the last episode on the channel, I'm gonna link it right here. The story's about an OP's parents who are having their sixth child they can't afford, so they demand OP to give them OP's college fund. Check this out if you haven't, and I'll see you next time on Dr. Monkey.